Hey there, welcome back to these Conversations with No One, where I attempt to share my experience living in a state of somewhat non-identification with my character and duality. This is the second conversation, the main one, which I didn't think I would be making another video in for a while, but so I'm currently laughing at myself for making another one so soon after I thought I might be done with them for a while, but I also called myself out when making the previous one, so I did kind of know this was coming. As usual, my thoughts were activated by external stimuli. This time, from a person who's sharing her raw experience, but no longer embracing the non-duality language, or embracing the language of non-duality. I rarely click on any non-duality videos anymore, as most of them are simply saying the same things that have always been said. Wash, rinse, repeat. But every once in a while I see something in a title or channel name that hints there might be a fresh perspective, and in this case it was the channel name, the Non-Duality Police, that got my attention by making me laugh. Anyone who has listened to some of these conversations with no one will know that I more and more have been shying away from using non-duality terminology or trying to label my experience with convenient catchphrases. I probably would have named my channel something else if I had known the non-duality idea of becoming no one. But since I'm literally sitting here talking to myself, who doesn't exist either, it seemed less pretentious back then. Making these videos has helped me let go of a lot of the pre-packaged ways of expressing or explaining what my experience is or means, because creating meaning has continued to fall away. Of course, it won't ever fall away completely, and I don't think I want it to, but for the sake of authentic communication, I feel it's important to leave as much of that out of these conversations as possible. So one of my favorite paradoxes in non-duality is that the term or idea of non-duality actually creates duality, or the idea of it. Before we know about non-duality, our experience of duality is the only thing that exists for us as an integrated state of identification with our experience of material reality, and therefore a non-dual or single mono state. The dictionary definition of duality is opposition or contrast between two concepts or two aspects of something. So it makes some sense to call the understanding there is no separation non-dual. The idea is to impart that duality does not exist. However, its very use doubles down on the idea that we're experiencing a duality. A synonym of duality is fungibility, which means non-duality is non-fungible. So I don't know, maybe we should start referring to it as NFR, non-fungible reality. Yeah, our use of language really does seem to get in the way of our letting go of duality in general, doesn't it? One of the main tenets of non-duality is that duality is an illusion. It's not real. So if duality doesn't exist, then nothing actually exists. Therefore, by definition, non-duality doesn't exist either. When we seek non-duality, it seems to me that we embrace a level of cognitive dissonance that traps our minds on a hamster wheel of conflicting ideas and concepts. which can in turn cause suffering as we work really hard to get to where we think we want to go or need to be going. Our realization about being trapped in our illusion leads us to want to escape it and reach a place of liberation and peace. But when we create this place in our mind that doesn't exist, we simultaneously make sure we can't ever get there. We become Sisyphus, the guy in the Bible who was punished to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity. And we invest in believing we'll someday reach the top. Those who experience a state of non-identification with their character or duality often appreciate the experience so much they feel compelled to help others experience it. It's an easy mode to fall into when you finally become free of all the stories that caused you so much suffering. And the desire to help others free themselves is completely understandable. Those of us who have shown a desire to be free of their stories are desperately searching for this, and those who are suffering a lot from them deserve not to suffer. When we become free of our suffering, it seems only natural that we want to help free everyone from theirs. But it's the big question of how, which everyone has their own ideas about. But an even bigger question that we almost never ask is, should we? I've always chafed against the dynamic of spiritual or thought leaders, and have never been tempted to be a follower of anyone, except for maybe in the social media sense. This whole dynamic seems to create more problems than it solves, or just replaces existing problems with new ones. I've heard it described as like going into a cul-de-sac in your search. And I agree with those wanting to help those who are looking for help. That does seem to be a very good use of this experience, but it also seems to me that the only way to actually help is while also standing out of their way. By putting ourselves in a role of leader, we encourage people to follow us rather than find their own way. Of course, periodically following the paths of others can be extremely helpful when finding your own path, as can every other experience we can have. So I'm not trying to say there's a right or wrong here. It just seems to be a more useful role might be to stand beside or behind someone on their journey, helping them carry their load while sometimes pointing out various alternative trails they might find interesting. Sure, 9 times out of 10 they'll probably choose the paths that we know are much harder than others, but we only know because we already walked them. And who are we to deny them that experience? Who are we to project our ideas of which path should be taken? And why would we think they shouldn't experience the hard bits that ended up helping us so much? It makes me really happy to see more and more people sharing a similar perspective and approaching this experience without all the dogma or embracing all the traditional terminology or dynamics. I'm kind of hoping this will be a growing trend, as it could very well help some of the suffering that's created just by the act of seeking. I started sharing my experience only after seeing that sharing my perspectives with those closest to me seemed to help reduce their ongoing suffering, and And in some cases I've watched as they transformed their experience completely in very positive ways. Of course, my last two videos illustrate how I've also failed a number of times to help people escape their stories, but I also recognized when I was doing this that I only ever helped them help themselves. All I ever did was provide a different perspectives on the stories they were creating. And just being able to see their stories from a different perspective seemed to have helped them write different stories that served them better. And quite often helped them recognize all kinds of other trails they could choose to explore when they might have always felt like there was just one option, one way forward. Of course, all of that is a story as well. I'm not right and no one else is wrong. Still, I'll be interested to see how our collective relationship with all this continues to unfold. And whenever I find those who share their experience in raw, authentic, and vulnerable ways, I'll keep enjoying it, keep supporting it, keep trying to encourage them to continue. I guess that's it for now. Thanks for joining me in this beautiful wetlands out here. I hope you have a wonderful day.